Here's something that will absolutely wreck your Sunday school memories. David, you know, the little fellow with the slingshot, went up against Goliath, the giant, the one they call a man after God's own heart. Well, he had his lover's husband killed. Proper murdered him. And not in some heat of the moment thing either. He planned it out, sent the poor guy to the front lines to die so that he could keep riding the man's wife. If David lived today, he'd be doing life in Mountjoy, no question. And yet, God called him his favourite. Look, I spent years thinking I wasn't holy enough for God. Growing up, every Bible story felt like another impossible standard I'd never reach. Moses, the great leader. Abraham, the faithful father. Peter, the rock of the church. And then there's me. Can't even get through the week without losing the head completely over something stupid. But here's the thing, I had it backwards entirely. What if the whole point isn't that they were perfect? What if the point is that they were absolute disasters? Let's start with the lads everyone knows about, right? Moses, the great deliverer, killed a man, had serious anger issues, lost the rag so badly that God wouldn't even let him into the promised land he'd spent 40 years trying to reach. 40 years wandering around in the desert, and he dies looking at it from a hill. Peter, the rock of the church, he denied Jesus 3 times when it mattered the most. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Jesus, never heard of him, mate. And this is the fella that Jesus picked to lead the church. Paul, he wrote half of the New Testament, was literally murdering Christians before his conversion, dragging them out of their homes, throwing them in prison. He called himself the chief of sinners, and he wasn't being humble. He meant it. Those are the heroes? Sound familiar at all? We all have a moment that we're not proud of. That thing we did that we would rather forget. But here's where it gets properly mental. Abraham, the father of the faith, he would be sectioned today, no question. Sorry, Doc, a voice in my head told me to sacrifice my son. We'd have him in the psychiatric ward faster than you could say schizophrenia. And yet, 3 world religions call him their founding father. And then there's Jacob, a proper chancer, that one. He tricked his blind father, stole his brother's birthright, and spent his whole life scheming and lying. And then he got tricked himself by his father-in-law and acted all shocked about it. How could you deceive me? Well, Jacob, maybe because you've been doing it to everyone else your whole life. And Solomon, now here's a lad that really gets to me. He had all the wisdom in the world. I mean, he literally wrote the book on it. He built God's temple, and then he threw it all away, chasing after foreign gods because he fancied their wives. All that wisdom, and he still ended up a right idiot. You know what? I used to read these stories and beat myself up about every mistake I made. But these fellas, they made my worst days look like minor inconveniences. Here's what clicked for me after years of getting it wrong. These aren't cautionary tales. They're not here to make us feel small. They're the whole bloody point. Jesus doesn't choose people despite their brokenness. He chooses them because of it. Think about it. You wouldn't hire someone who's never struggled with drink to run an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, would you? You wouldn't want marriage advice from someone who's never had a row with their spouse. God uses broken people because broken people understand what other broken people need. They know what it's like to fail, to mess up, and to need grace. David writes in Psalms, and remember, this is after he had someone murdered. He writes, "My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart you will not despise." Not a perfect heart, not a heart that's got it all sorted, a broken heart. So what does this mean for us mere mortals? It means your worst day doesn't disqualify you from grace. It means that thing you did, that mistake that you made, that failure that keeps you up at night, it doesn't put you beyond God's reach. If God can use David after what he did, he can certainly use you after what you've done. If he can use Moses with his temper, Paul with his violent past, and Peter with his denials, then maybe, just maybe, he can use you with whatever baggage that you're carrying. I used to think I had to clean myself up before I could approach God. Now I realize that's like trying to shower before you get in the shower. The whole point is that you come as you are, mess and all. I used to read these stories and think, Christ, I'll never measure up to these giants of the faith. But now I read them and think, thank God that I don't have to. The only perfect person in the whole book is Jesus. And even he spent his time with tax collectors and prostitutes, not the religious elite. He didn't come for the people who had it all sorted out. He came for the ones who knew that they were broken. And that's all of us, isn't it? We're all just broken people trying to figure it out. And that's exactly where God meets us. But hold on, this doesn't mean we can give up, accept everything that's wrong with us without having to work on it. God loves us as we are, but he loves us too much to leave us there. Grace isn't a license to stay broken, it's the power to heal. Right, if this is hitting you where you live, if you're tired of pretending you've got it all sorted when you clearly don't, give this a like. It helps more people find content that treats them like adults instead of children at Sunday school. And if you want more honest takes on faith that actually makes sense of the mess that we're all living in, hit that subscribe button. For those who want to support this kind of content, the stuff that doesn't sugarcoat the hard parts or pretend that faith is always easy, I've got a Patreon link below. Every bit helps to keep these conversations going. And here's the thing I want you to remember. You're not too broken for God's love. You're exactly broken enough for his grace. And if that doesn't make sense now, stick around. We'll figure it out together. My name's Jacob, and this might be church.